Hello friends, so let us discuss certain amendments which have taken place in auditing standards. Let me state one thing very categorically, that amendments as far as are concerned in respect of auditing standards and assurance standards are available at two levels. One is SA 610 revised and second is SAE 3420. So before I move forward, let me reiterate that amendments are at 2 points. Point number 1 and point number 2, let me state before you. As far as engagement, and quality control standards are concerned, there are two amendments. Amendment is in SA 610 and then is SAE 3420. SA means you know very well standard on auditing, and SAE means standard on assurance engagement. So I will be discussing SA 610 first of all, then I will discuss SAE 3420 after this discussion of SA 610. So let us keep our eyes and ears on the forthcoming slide, that is SA 610. Very simple thing, no complexities there, some additional principles are there. SA 610 dealt with using the work of internal auditor. Now, the additional principles have been enunciated by Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and the additional principles state that SA 610 does not apply if the entity does not have an internal audit function. Mind you, the words are internal audit function and not internal audit department. I repeat, the words are internal audit function and not internal audit department. So what the standard says? Standard says the principles contained in SA 610 need not be complied with, need not be followed by the statutory auditors if the concerned enterprise is not having internal audit function. That means step number 1, we have to check whether the organization of which you are the auditor as statutory auditor or external auditor, whether such an enterprise is having any internal audit function or not. If such an organization is not having any internal audit function, then there is no need to follow the principles of SA 610. Why? Because SA 610 revised states that I am not applicable if the entity does not have an internal audit function. Now SA 610 further states that what is internal audit function? SA 610 says that internal audit function is a function of an entity that performs assurance and consulting activities designed to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of entities' governance, risk management and internal control processes. Now definition is having some complicated, some phenomenal words. To make it simple, as a layman I will say, what is internal audit function? Internal audit function is a mechanism. Internal audit function is a mechanism, is a process by virtue of which it can be ascertained whether the internal control system, whether the internal financial control system of the given enterprise is operating effectively and efficiently or not. I repeat, by the virtue of internal audit function, it can be assessed whether internal control system, internal financial control system in an enterprise is operating effectively and efficiently or not. Further, they have given a new definition of direct assistance. The standard says the use of internal auditors to perform audit procedures under the direction, supervision and review of external auditor is nothing but direct assistance. Meaning thereby, if your organization is having some internal auditors, and if these internal auditors are working as per the supervision, direction and review of the statutory auditor or of the external auditor, then this kind of supervision, direction and review is known as direct assistance. So simple thing is, if I am the internal auditor and you are the statutory auditor and if I am working according to you, if I am working as per your command, then it is known as I am working under your direct supervision, yes, and this is nothing but the direct assistance of internal auditor to the statutory auditor. Lastly, SA 610 stated that the internal audit function, that is, whether as external auditor I should rely upon the work of internal auditor or not, shall be dependent upon three factors. How many factors? Three factors. That means three factors are there which can influence whether I should use the work of internal auditors or not. Number one is organizational status. That means whether the organization is big or small, is a manufacturing enterprise or a trading enterprise, etc. Depending upon the nature of the organization, the internal audit function can be impacted. Complete theory, nothing special into it. Number second, the internal audit function reliance can be affected depending upon the competence and the skills of internal auditors. So suppose that your company is having internal audit department, but that internal audit department is not having competence, is not having skills, is not efficient. In that very case, as an external auditor, I would be influenced. I need to check, I need to examine, I need to question whether I should use the work done by your internal auditors or not. It is quite obvious, if your internal auditors are not that much efficient, I will not use your work. Lastly, quality control of internal audit function. IM is internal audit function. If your internal audit function is not qualitative, you are giving poor quality service to the organization, then why I will use your work? Being a statutory auditor, I need quality services from you as well. If you are not providing qualitative services, then I will not use your work because it will result in increase in audit risk. Always remember, give a heading in your notebook, examination tip. Give the heading examination tip. Now listen first of all. In this whole new agenda of SA 610 revised, the examination tip is, if factors are present that may influence the decision of external auditor, that may influence the decision of statutory auditor for not using the work of internal auditor, is nothing but assessment of audit risk, whether or not to use the work of internal auditor. That means, in simple layman sense, if you see this line, the line is relationship between SA 315 and SA 610 revised. What the line states? The line states, step number 1, examine the existence and the degree of audit risk. If you are going to use the work of internal auditor, mind you, in examination, whenever the question appears for internal auditor, always do harmonize this internal audit standard with your standard of audit risk, whereby you need to write always and always, if the work of internal auditor is being relied upon, then the statutory auditors or external auditors, as the case may be, they need to assess the audit risk being present. If audit risk is high, make an attempt to decrease the level of audit risk. If audit risk cannot be declined, in such a case, no other option but to issue qualified report, adverse report, or disclaimer report, as the case may be, or withdraw from the engagement. Please come to your notebook and write down few points. The heading is examination tip. Examination tip. Point number 1. Examination tip. Point number 1. In examination, whenever a question appears, for using the work of internal audit function or internal auditors, then always harmonize principles of SA 610, with principles contained in SA 315, about about identification and assessment of audit risk. About identification and assessment of audit risk. Okay. Main point number second, give a heading special point. Special points. Main point number second, give a heading special points. Point number one. Point number one. For the purpose of SA610 revised, for the purpose of SA610 revised, for the purpose of SA610 revised, comma, the internal audit function can be in-house function, or can be an outsourced function, We will cover some examples after some moments. Simply write down. We will cover examples. I repeat. For the purpose of SA610 revised, the internal audit function can be in-house function, or an outsourced function, We'll do examples. Next point. Main category special point, second subpoint, second subpoint. Further, it should be noted that SA610 revised shall remain applicable. Further, it should be noted that SA610 revised shall remain applicable, even if, underline the words even if the title of such function, even if the title, T-I-T-L-E, even if the title of such function is addressed by some other name, For example, if an enterprise addresses internal audit function with a name such as management audit function, comma, even then SA610 shall remain applicable. Yeah. Okay, done. Let us do certain case studies. So, example number one. Let us assume the company is ABC Limited. Mr. X, statutory auditor, okay. Now, further information is case 1, company is having its own internal audit department. Case number second, appointed PQR and Company CA firm as internal auditors. Okay. What is the question? Now the question is whether SA 610 revised should be followed by Mr. X. By Mr. X. That's a simple question. So what is your answer? No problem. Let us do this thing, man. No problem. No problem. Let us do. Answer for case number 1. Answer for case number 2. Yes. Acha. Okay. Okay. Now just see. SA 610 revised. What does it says? SA 610 revised states that I am applicable only when the enterprise is having internal audit function. What I dictated and told, it is immaterial. It is immaterial whether such internal audit function is in-house function or outsource function. In-house, that means my department. Outsource means somebody else is doing internal audit for my company. So what you need to remember, in both the given cases, the standard SA 610 revised shall be followed by Mr. X, because case number 1 is in-house function, case number 2 is outsourced function. It does mean that 610 is applicable for, required to be followed, 610 is applicable, required to be followed. So you need to be very, very careful. In both the cases, 610 is applicable and Mr. X need to follow the principles of SA 610. Please copy this chart. Done? Okay. Shall I proceed? Example number 2. See the example. Company is XYZ Limited. Mr. P, the statutory auditor. Now, XYZ Limited has appointed Messrs. RST and Company CA firm as its management auditor. Question: whether Mr. P should follow SA 610 revised. What is your answer? Shall he follow? So, shall he follow? Shall he follow? Yes, he has to follow. Why? If you see the notes, I dictated one point. Title is immaterial. If you are titling, if you are addressing such audit function, not by name internal audit, but by some similar names like management audit, operational audit, yes. In such a case, even SA 610 is applicable. That means answer is yes. Why? because titling of IA function is immaterial. Are you getting my point? Yeah. Please copy this chart. The same principle will remain applicable also. In this example, I have taken an assumption that the work has been outsourced. Suppose the work has been in-house and that in-house work has been named as Management Audit Department. Still, SA610 will be applicable. Name has no role to play. Whatever name you are keeping, even if you are keeping operational audit, then even 610 revise shall be applicable. It is immaterial whether it is outsourced or it is in-house. No problem. SA610 will remain applicable. Yeah. Please copy this. Done. I will put on the screen also, no? Yeah. Copied, sir? Okay. So this completes your SA610. Now a special note. Special note is must. This discussion on SA610 revised is in addition to the lecture coded in August 2016. So basically that SA610 plus today's new principles applicable for May 2017. Is it okay? So be very careful. These are the changes. Okay, let me put a block here also in addition to. Yeah, you are not chartered accountants, you are lawyers. Okay. This is the only change. I must say, even in that very class, we covered this topic because we have the habit of learning linkage of essay with other essay. So that very time, even I told you, whenever you are relying upon the work of experts, whenever you are relying upon the work of branch auditors, whenever you are relying upon the work of internal auditors, always harmonize audit risk. So same thing is here also. They have harmonized audit risk principles and they have clearly written now. Earlier it was not clearly written. Now they have clearly written that harmonized audit risk. Additional thing is that internal audit function is available. Only then SA610 would be applicable. Earlier it was not there. So that is small change. Yeah. Now that I cannot comment. Amendments are there, changes are there. They may ask, they may not ask. Yeah. That is ICI only. I cannot do much about this thing. I can only teach. Yeah. Okay, Ji. Today's new principles. G. What do you call in Tamil? Ama. Yeah. Definitely. Kandipa. Yeah. Okay, shall I proceed further? Okay. Thank you. Now the other standard is entirely new standard. This is applicable for the first time in my 17 examination and the new standard is about SAE 3420. So let me show you the screen. Yeah. Give this heading in your notebook. Entirely new standard. This is entirely new. Nothing was applicable in November 16. Yeah. Give this heading. Assurance engagement to report on compilation of pro forma financial information included in a prospectus. I repeat, assurance engagements to report on compilation of pro forma financial statements, pro forma financial information included in a prospectus, SAE 3420. When you note this title, underline the word compilation and put a circle on the word pro forma. I repeat, in this title, underline the word compilation and put a small circle on the word pro forma. Put this word pro forma in a circle. It's very crucial, I will tell you. SAE 3420. SAE 3420. Standard on Assurance Engagement 3420. Yeah. Yeah. Shall I proceed? Okay. Now, before I teach you this standard, examination tip. Examination tip, listen. If you try to recollect, we do have SRS 4410. What is SRS 4410? Don't smile. Examinations are near. You must learn. Okay, any guesswork? No. No. Documentation is SA230. SRS 4410 is compilation. Remember? That's examination tip. We do have SRS 4410. SRS 4410 deals with engagements to compile financial statements. It is compilation of pro forma financial statements. In examination, very careful. If ICAI is asking you a short note and the question states, write a short note on compilation of pro forma financial statements. Mind you, you have to discuss SAE 3420. Don't discuss SRS 4410 because SRS 4410 is about compilation of financial statements. It is about compilation of pro forma financial statements. Are you getting my point? Write down first of all. Point number 1, examination tip. Examination tip. Examination tip. Don't mix up. Don't mix up. Only one point is there. Don't mix up SRS 4410. Don't mix up SRS 4410 with SAE 3420. Don't mix up SRS 4410 with SAE 3420. That is SRS 4410. That is SRS 4410 deals with compilation of financial statements. Deals with compilation of financial statements. Whereas SAE 3420 deals with compilation of pro forma financial statements. Deals with compilation of pro forma financial statements. So now let us come to the topic. But compilation of pro forma financial statements are the provisions as far as law is concerned. Law. Why ICAI issued this standard? It has a background, and the background is SEBI guideline. Now what does SEBI says? Let us understand. We do have Schedule 8. See on the screen. We do have Schedule 8 of SEBI Issue of Capital and Disclosure Requirements Regulations 2009. In your corporate and allied law paper, we do have SEBI guidelines, and these SEBI guidelines are popularly known as SEBI Issue of Capital and Disclosure Requirements Regulations 2009. Now, in these very guidelines, we do have Schedule number 8. What Schedule number 8 says? Don't copy, first understand. As per Schedule 8 of SEBI ICDR regulation, issuer. What is issuer? Issuer means a company which is launching IPO. IPO means initial public offer, or FPO. FPO means follow on public offer. Yeah, correct. So I repeat. As per Schedule 8 of SEBI ICDR Regulations 2009, issuer has to prepare pro forma financial statements and also obtain report on the same by the statutory auditor. If you see the guideline, what they are saying, statutory auditor has to report upon pro forma financial statements. Now, two questions must be there into your head. One is, what is pro forma financial statement? And number second is how to issue report on such pro forma financial statement. For this purpose, SEBI guidelines state that the pro forma financial statements are normally used in offer documents to demonstrate the effect of significant transactions on the financial statements of a company as if those transactions had occurred at an earlier date. I will show the example after some moments. Now, SEBI guidelines have defined what is pro forma financial statements, but SEBI guidelines have not given any guidance about how to have the report by statutory auditors on such pro forma financial statements. For this purpose, ICAI issued SAE 3420. ICAI in SAE 3420 states certain principles to be followed when the statutory auditors would be issuing the report for the purpose of this schedule number 8. Now, let me repeat the definition once again. The pro forma financial statements are normally used in the offer document. What is offer document? Prospectus. Used in the offer document, or I can say prospectus. Why they are included? They are included in the prospectus to demonstrate the effect of significant transactions such as merger acquisitions and other transactions which are significant in nature, depending upon professional judgment, on the financial statements of a company. Company means issuer company, as if those transactions had occurred at an earlier date. To take an example, see on the screen, the example could be like this. The company is ABC Limited, who has decided to go with the IPO in times to come. So details are with you now. The balance sheet date of ABC Limited is 31st March 2016. On 30th June 2016, see on the screen, on 30th June 2016, ABC Limited acquired PQR Limited. Now it is nothing but significant transaction. Why? Because it is merger acquisition. Now a significant transaction has taken place between ABC Limited and PQR Limited. What is significant transaction? The significant transaction of ABC Limited is that it has acquired PQR Limited on 30th June 2016. Now, SEBI says you have to file prospectus or offer document so that we can give you the permission to go with the IPO proposal. What happened now? ABC Limited approached SEBI, and in SEBI, ABC Limited filed its prospectus, or you can say offer document, on 31st August 2016. Now, as per Schedule 8, Schedule 8 says that if you are filing the offer document, then you have to adjust significant transactions as if they have occurred on the earlier date. Earlier date means balance sheet date. It does mean that the offer document which ABC Limited would be filing on 31st August 2016, that offer document will contain a financial statement, for the financial year 15-16, in which the accounting adjustments shall be made, for the acquisition transaction that has taken place on 30th June 2016, assuming that such acquisition has not taken place on 30th June 2016 but on 31st March 2016. That does mean ABC Limited has to adjust all the acquisition transaction, see on the screen. ABC Limited has to adjust all the acquisition transaction on 31st March 2016 before filing the offer document. Are you getting my point? Normally, the accounting for acquisition transaction is made on 30th June 2016. But for the purpose of filing offer document, with SEBI, in that offer document, you have to adjust your financial statements with pro forma adjustments, and these adjustments shall be carried out notionally, whereby it shall be assumed what financial statement should have been if the acquisition should have taken place on 31st March 2016 itself. Once this pro forma financial statement will be drafted on the notional assumption that acquisition has taken place at an earlier date and not on 30th June, then the statutory auditor of your company need to issue his report that the pro forma adjustments have been appropriately carried out in the pro forma financial statements. So please copy this chart, but after writing this thing, give the heading point number 1, background. Background. Or you can give this heading background of SAE 3420. Background of SAE 3420. Background of SAE 3420. Okay. Given the heading, copy these 2 points. Yeah, please copy. Done? Okay. Copy this chart. Give a heading. Example of pro forma financial adjustments. Example of pro forma financial adjustment. Example of pro forma financial adjustment. Please copy this chart. Done? You can. Copy it. Shall I proceed further? Okay. Okay. Next main point, give the heading basic principles of SAE 3420. Basic principles of SAE 3420. Basic principles of SAE 3420. See on the screen. If you see these principles, these are again repetition of whatever we discussed in the previous classes. Everything is repeated. So as a matter of fact, let me repeat in the class also. That means when the statutory auditors will issue report for the purpose of Schedule 8 of SEBI guidelines, they have to follow these 7 principles. Very simple principles we discussed already. Principle number 1. The prime responsibility is that of management as usual. While you issue the report, you have to comply with Code of Ethics as well as ICS standards. Again, we discussed in the previous sessions. The statutory auditors have to examine the reasonableness and reliability of applied criteria. What is applied criteria? That means the basis. That means the basis on the virtue of which adjustments have been made. The simple thing is, whenever you will be making adjustments of 30th June 2016 on preponement basis, on earlier date basis, obviously you have to make certain adjustments. These adjustments shall be made on certain assumptions, certain parameters. So what we need to do As auditors, we need to see whether these parameters, assumptions are reliable, reasonable or not. Number 4 is, you have to examine the calculations underlying the compilation of pro forma financial statement. PRFS means pro forma financial statements. That means check the calculations whether adjustments have been accurately recorded or not. Obtain management representation letter. Same thing, SA 580 we discussed long time back. You have to evaluate whether the need for expert is required or not. If you have to follow the expert advice, again the same thing, you need to repeat SA 620. Yes. So you can harmonize this standard with SA 620. And lastly, you have to express an opinion. And this opinion can be any appropriate opinion such as qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer opinion or emphasized opinion. If you cannot issue any opinion because of limitation on scope, consider withdrawal from the engagement. We already discussed this thing in the previous sessions also. So every principle is somehow correlated and repeated. In examination, you have to write these principles if asked for. To my personal understanding, since this standard is first time applicable, they may ask a short note only. Write a short note on compilation of pro forma financial statements. In that very short note, whatever we discussed in the previous slides along with this principle shall be sufficient. Lastly, if you remember in SA 700, we discussed title of audit report. Sorry, we discussed elements of audit report, basic elements of audit report. Are you able to recall title, addressee, opening paragraph? Same principles we discussed in SA 800 series also. Title, addressee, other things. Yeah. Now the same thing is repeated in this standard also. ICI says in SAE 3420 that dear statutory auditors, when you will issue report for the purpose of pro forma financial statements compilation, then that very report must have all these essential elements. If you see the elements are title, addressee, opening paragraph, management's responsibility paragraph, practitioner's responsibility paragraph. So if you see, the principles are again repetition, but only one question before this house. The question is, many things are repeated, but a small change is there. The word uses practitioner's responsibility. The word is practitioners, not auditor. Hardly makes a difference, but yes, in examination, remember that this word practitioner is the key word. So I would suggest that don't write the word auditor's responsibility paragraph. It would be better if you write practitioner's responsibility paragraph in context of SA 3420 question. But technically there is no glitch, but since SAE is using the word practitioner, it is advisable. It's my humble suggestion that you should also use the word practitioner only. Point number 6 is SAE 3420 compliance statement paragraph. That means being auditors we have to state during the course of this compilation of pro forma financial statements, we have complied with all the principles given in SAE 3420. We have to give our opinion basis on the same, and then we have to put our date, place with the signature point. Signature will be accompanied with membership number and firm registration number. Are you getting my point? Simple standard. Only thing is, in this whole standard, simply keep in your brain nothing but SEBI guideline. This SEBI guideline. That's the core of this standard. If this guideline is in your brains, then nobody can stop you from developing an answer, because balance thing is quite a repetition of other standards. You can automatically develop the answer. But yes, to discuss SAE 3420, it is always advisable to discuss SEBI guidelines first of all. I must say, in your study material, when you will read this SAE 3420, to my limited understanding and knowledge, I must say in your study material, they have not discussed this schedule 8 of SEBI guidelines. So background of SAE 3420 is not given in your study material. So before you study from study material, it is advisable to learn this SEBI guideline background. Then only you can have the deliberation on what the standard is all about. Is it okay? Please come to the notebook and copy these principles. Please copy. QAD means qualified, adverse or disclaimer. EUM, emphasis on matter. Yeah, correct. PRFS. No. PRFS, short form is only for class. For examination, you have to write full form, pro forma, financial statements. Yeah. Please copy. Shall I proceed? Okay. Copy to the copied. Put a star on PRFS. I repeat, put a star on PRFS and write the full form. PRFS means Proforma Financial Statements. Proforma Financial Statements. Okay. Lastly, last main point. Copy this. Give the heading basic elements and copy these 9 points. And when you copy, underline the word practitioner. Done? Take your time. Take your time. Okay, done. So this is it about the changes of standards. Only 2 standards were kind of new standards. One is SA610 revised, which was not a new standard. Basically, certain portions are added to old SA610. Entirely new standard is your SAE3420, which we just covered now. I must reiterate, in SAE3420, you must always remember this background, that is SEBI guideline, because of which we have to study SEBI. We have to study SA3420. More importantly, as I mentioned in a notebook, be very precautious that this very SAE3420 deals with compilation of pro forma financial statements and not with compilation of financial statements. For compilation of financial statements, it is your SRS 4410. Why I am saying this thing again and again? The reason is simple. In examination, if the question appears, students in general will overlook the question. They will simply see the word compilation and they will start the answer of the question. But the question would be perhaps on compilation of pro forma financial statements. And this way the things will go wrong. So read the paper very carefully, because this small question can commit a big blunder. Anyways, it may or may not happen depending upon your curriculum and examination. Curriculum means your presence of mind. Not on the crowd of classroom, but on the question paper. Yeah, correct, sir. So with these words, I wish you all the luck. Thanks for the participation in this amendment class. So this way the amendments are completed. Should you have any queries, you are most welcome on my email ID cakamalgarg@gmail.com, and I will solve your queries as soon as possible. Thank you very much. God bless you all with Chartered Accountants Degree. Thank you very much.